The headlights of my dream car were shattered, glass scattered across the wet pavement, glinting like broken promises under the streetlights. My brother's drunk laughter echoed somewhere behind me, as if the mangled metal wasn't the graveyard of my 3 years of sweat, sacrifice, and sleepless nights. My name is Rachel. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been treated like a stranger in your own family, where your pain is background noise, and their mistakes are excused with a soft shrug? I stood frozen, rain soaking through my hoodie, staring at the twisted hood of the car I'd worked double shifts for, skipped birthdays for, skipped meals for. The police lights flashed red and blue, painting my brother's smirk like some kind of cruel portrait. Accidents happen, my mom whispered, wrapping her coat tighter, already rehearsing excuses. Accidents, that word hit harder than the crash itself, because this wasn't an accident. This was theft. This was betrayal. This was my brother, staggering drunk, pulling my keys off the counter, sliding into the driver's seat of the one thing I'd bled for. He didn't ask. He didn't care. He didn't even call me after. I got a call from the cops instead, and when I showed up, my mom was already there, arms folded, voice soft, blaming the rain, the dark, the universe. Anyone but him. Rachel, she sighed, cars can be fixed. Insurance exists. She didn't look at me when she said it. She looked at him. My brother. With eyes that begged forgiveness for him, not me. My fists trembled at my sides. My throat burned. But I didn't scream. I didn't collapse. Instead, I walked toward him. He swayed, reeking of beer, blood on his lip from the airbag. His eyes met mine, glazed with arrogance, and I did the thing nobody expected. I smiled. I hugged him. His shoulders loosened, relieved, as if I'd chosen him over myself. As if I'd chosen family loyalty over justice. But here's what no one in that parking lot knew: hours before this wreck, before the rain, before the flashing lights, I'd already handed the police my car's dashcam footage. My brother thought he stole my car, but I had already stolen his freedom. The next morning, sunlight spilled across my blinds like nothing had happened. But the smell of damp asphalt and burned rubber still clung to me. My phone buzzed out. A text from my mom. Rachel, we'll talk tonight. Don't overreact. Family first. Family first. Her favorite mantra. Always used like duct tape to patch over the cracks my brother left behind. I dragged myself up, staring at the photo on my wall. My car. Midnight blue, polished like glass, the reflection of the gas station lights bouncing off its curves the night I finally drove it home. My dream. My proof. My independence. Now it sat in a police impound, front end caved in like a crushed ribcage. I went to work. I answered phones, filed reports, smiled through clenched teeth. But under my desk, I replayed the dashcam footage on mute, over and over. There he was. My brother, stumbling into the driver's seat. Slurring. Laughing. Dropping the beer can in my cup holder like it was a joke. The timestamp. The streetlights. The sound of tires squealing. Proof. All of it. That night, I walked into my mom's kitchen. She was at the stove, stirring sauce, acting like this was any other Tuesday. My brother sat at the table, head down, hands folded, like some penitent altar boy. Rachel, my mom said softly, not looking at me. We'll get this sorted. You can file the insurance claim tomorrow. It'll cover most of it. Most of it. She didn't know about the cash tips I'd stuffed in envelopes. About the weekends I worked doubles when everyone else was at barbecues. About the dinners I skipped just to scrape another $100 into savings. My brother lifted his eyes, red-rimmed, fake remorse dripping like oil. I'm sorry, Ratch. I didn't mean. You didn't mean? I cut him off. My voice cracked, sharp, slicing through the quiet hum of the kitchen. You did it. You stole from me. My mom's spoon froze mid-stir. Don't call it stealing. He's your brother. He made a mistake. A mistake. That word. Again. My brother leaned back, smirk tugging at his lips despite the script of regret he was reading from. Come on. It's just a car. Chill. Just a car. 3 years of my life. Every mile, every hour, every blister. Reduced to just a car. I swallowed the fire in my throat. I let silence fall heavy between us. And then I smiled again. That same smile from the night before. The one they mistook for forgiveness. Okay, I said softly. I'll file the claim tomorrow. Relief washed across my mom's face. My brother leaned forward, thinking he'd won, but under the table, my fingers tapped my phone screen. The police had already texted me back. The footage was clear. The charges were processing. They thought they were burying the truth in sauce and soft words, but the truth was already alive, breathing, moving forward like a slow, unstoppable storm. And for the first time in years, I felt calm, because I wasn't planning revenge. I was already in it. 2 days later. The knock came firm. Heavy. The kind of knock that doesn't belong to neighbors or friends. I opened the door, and there they were, 2 uniformed officers, rain dripping off their jackets. My brother, half asleep on the couch behind me, jolted upright. Is Jacob Miller here? One of the officers asked, voice flat. My mom appeared instantly, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Officers, I'm sure there's a mistake, but there wasn't. I stepped aside. Wordless, they read him his rights. My brother's face drained of color. He laughed nervously, looked at me, then at Mom. Rachel, he stammered, tell them it was an accident. My mom rushed forward, voice cracking with panic. She won't press charges. Right, Rachel? You won't do this to your own brother. But this wasn't about pressing charges. It wasn't even up to me anymore. The footage had done all the talking. My brother's drunk slurs, the beer can, the speedometer climbing, the crash. It was all there. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I just stood in the doorway, watching as they cuffed him, his wrists clinking with cold metal. Rachel. My mom screamed, tears streaming, reaching for me like I was the traitor. How could you? He's your blood. Blood. Funny how blood always seemed to weigh more than sweat, more than sacrifice, more than dreams, but not to me. Not anymore. They took him. The flashing red and blue lights faded down the street. My mom collapsed at the table, sobbing into her hands. I sat across from her, calm as glass. You should have protected me, I whispered. Her head snapped up, eyes blazing. Protected you? From your own brother? Families don't turn on each other, Rachel. I laughed, sharp and hollow. He turned on me the second he stole that car. The silence that followed was heavier than any shouting match. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered. Miss Miller, the voice said, formal. This is Officer Daniels. The DA is reviewing the dashcam footage. With the DUI, reckless endangerment, and property damage, your brother's facing serious time. We'll be in touch. Serious time. I hung up, staring into the dark. My chest rose and fell with something I hadn't felt in years. Power, but power comes with echoes, because in the quiet, I could still hear my mom's voice, ragged with betrayal. How could you? And maybe part of me wondered the same thing, but then I remembered the glass on the pavement. The smirk on my brother's face. The way my mother had said, accidents happen. That was the night I understood something. I wasn't just getting justice for my car. I was tearing down the altar my family had built around him, and once it cracked, nothing would ever look holy again. The house felt hollow without him, yet not in the way you'd expect. No more blaring music shaking the walls at 2 a.m. No more empty beer bottles lined across the counter like trophies. No more excuses fluttering from my mom's lips, coating every wound in denial, just silence, and silence has a way of making people talk. Neighbors slowed their cars when they passed our driveway. At work, people whispered when they thought I couldn't hear. Did you hear? Rachel's brother got arrested. DUI. Crashed her car. I walked straighter, chin high. Not ashamed. Not guilty, but my mom, she carried shame like a cloak. She started avoiding grocery stores she used to love. She sent me instead, pretending she had headaches. I knew the truth. She couldn't stand the eyes. One night, she cornered me in the kitchen, voice trembling like a wire about to snap. You think you won, don't you? She spat. I froze, hand on the fridge handle. What? You think this makes you strong? Giving the police that footage? Watching your own brother dragged away in cuffs? Her eyes were wild, glassy. But all you did was destroy this family. I set the milk down slowly, turning to face her. No, Mom. I didn't destroy it. He did. Years ago. Every lie. Every bottle. Every time you covered for him. This was just the ending you kept trying to delay. Her hand flew to her mouth, like I'd slapped her, but I didn't stop. You think family means loyalty no matter the cost. But I've bled enough. I worked until my body broke just to own one thing for myself. And he stole it in a single night. You want me to forgive that? Pretend it didn't happen? Not this time. Her lips trembled, but no words came. That night, I lay in bed, phone screen glowing in the dark. A message blinked on the screen. Unknown number again. This time, it wasn't the police. It was my brother, Ratch. Please. You don't understand. I can't go to prison. Mom's breaking down. You can fix this. Just tell them it was a misunderstanding. Please. I stared at the words until my vision blurred. I remembered being 15, sitting in my room with the door locked while my brother raged through the hallway, drunk, breaking lamps, screaming at Mom. I remembered how she would always defend him afterward. He's just under stress. He didn't mean it. You know how he is, and now here he was again. Expecting me to patch his cracks. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the message to Officer Daniels. A week later, my brother sat in court. Chains on his wrists. Judge's gavel echoing like thunder. The charges were read: DUI. Grand theft auto. Reckless endangerment. My mom's sobs filled the courtroom. My brother's eyes locked on mine, cold and desperate, but I didn't flinch, because in that moment, I realized something sharp and undeniable. This wasn't revenge anymore, this was survival, and survival has no apologies. The courtroom smelled like old wood and dust, but to me it smelled like reckoning. I sat in the second row, hands folded, my pulse steady as the judge flipped through papers. My mom sat beside me, crumpled tissue in her hand, her sobs a low hum that blended into the shuffling of lawyers, and there he was. My brother. Jacob. Shackled, slouched, yet still carrying that arrogance like cologne. When the judge spoke, the air shifted. Jacob Miller, you are hereby sentenced to 18 months in county jail, with probation to follow. You will also pay restitution for damages caused. 18 months. My mom gasped, clutching her chest as if someone had stabbed her. Jacob's head whipped toward me. His eyes, icy, accusing, begging all at once. He mouthed it silently. You did this, and I didn't deny it, because yes, I did. The gavel struck. People rose. Lawyers shuffled papers back into briefcases. My mom clung to me, nails digging into my arm. Rachel, she whispered, voice breaking. Undo this. Please. File an appeal. Say something. He can't survive in there. Her. Desperation cut through me, sharp, but I didn't bleed. I pulled my arm free. Slowly. Firmly, no, I said. My voice didn't shake, her tears fell harder. You've cursed this family. You've cursed your brother. But all I heard was silence, because in that silence, I remembered nights working overtime at the diner, grease burning into my skin, counting bills in the bathroom stall just to keep them safe. I remembered Jacob stumbling in at dawn, reeking of whiskey, demanding money like I owed it to him. I remembered my mom's voice every time, he's your brother. Help him. Don't abandon him. But what about me, who had ever helped me? The bailiff led him out. Shackles clinking. His eyes still pinned on mine, promising things he couldn't put into words. Back home, the house felt colder. My mom didn't speak to me. She cooked for one. She left my clothes out of the dryer, as if I didn't exist, but in that emptiness, I found something I'd never had before. Peace. For the first time, I didn't walk on eggshells. I didn't hide my purse. I didn't wait for the next explosion. The quiet wasn't hollow anymore. It was mine. Weeks passed. My mom barely acknowledged me. When she did, her words were sharp as knives. You'll regret this, she hissed once, while scrubbing dishes. Blood is blood. You'll see. Someday. You'll need him. I didn't answer. Because in my heart, I already knew the truth. I didn't need Jacob. I didn't need her approval. I only needed the reflection of my own strength, staring back at me from the shards of a dream car I'd once thought defined me. The car was gone, but I was still here, and I was stronger than ever. 3 months into Jacob's sentence, the letters began, not from him, he never wrote me, from my mom. Every envelope was fat with guilt. Pages of slanted handwriting, bleeding ink, begging me to save him. She described how thin he looked during visits, how prison wasn't for boys like him, how the guards were cruel, how the system was broken. She didn't mention the women he'd screamed at. She didn't mention the cars he'd totaled. Before mine. She didn't mention the nights she'd hidden bruises under long sleeves and told me to mind my business. No. To her, he was still the golden son. I stopped opening the letters after the fourth one. They piled on my nightstand like dead leaves, weightless but impossible to ignore. Sometimes at night I swore I could hear them whispering, ink bleeding into air, her excuses fluttering like moth wings against my walls. One evening, I came home. Late from work. My clothes smelled of fried food and grease, the tips in my pocket barely enough to cover gas. She was waiting in the kitchen, the light above flickered, throwing shadows across her face. Her hair was wild, her eyes bloodshot like sleep had abandoned her. The veins in her hands stood out sharp as she gripped a mug of cold coffee. You have to drop it, she said before I even set my keys down. Her voice cracked, not from weakness, but from desperation, like a violin string pulled too tight. Drop what? I asked, already knowing. She lunged forward and grabbed my arm, nails digging crescent moons into my skin. The case. The footage. We'll find a lawyer. We'll appeal. If you say the footage was misunderstood, I laughed. Not a light laugh. A sharp, bitter one that startled even me. Misunderstood? Mom, he was drunk. He stole my car. He could have killed someone. The footage doesn't lie. Her face twisted. Rage spilled out where sadness used to be. You're cruel, she spat. You've always been jealous of him. He had charm, friends, opportunity. And you? You've always been small, bitter. Now you're punishing him for it. The words hit, but they didn't break me, because deep down, I'd always suspected that's how she saw me. And now it was out in the open, ugly and undeniable. I pulled her hand off my arm, steady, deliberate. You raised a thief and a drunk. And you called it love? She gasped like I'd slapped her, but I didn't stay to soothe her. Not this time. I walked past her, the floor creaking under my steps, and shut myself in my room. Her muffled sobs bled through the walls. But I didn't. Open the door. I wouldn't, not anymore. That night, I dreamed of broken glass again, but this time, the shards weren't from my car, they were from the mirror in my hallway, splintering as I punched it with bare knuckles. My reflection fractured into 100 faces, some angry, some hollow, some smiling like they knew something I didn't. When I looked closer, none of them were me. I woke with sweat chilling my skin, chest heaving. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A voicemail. Unknown number. I pressed play. Rachel. Jacob's voice rasped through the speaker. Weak, but venomous. I'll remember this. Every second in here, I'll remember. And when I get out, you'll pay. The line went dead. I sat in silence for a long time, staring at the ceiling. The threat should have scared me. Should have sent me spiraling, but instead, my heartbeat stayed steady, because threats are only weapons when you fear them, and I didn't. The next week, I visited the impound lot. My car sat there behind the chain link fence, still wrecked, waiting for the insurance claim to process. Its body was crumpled like a soda can, windshield shattered, hood bent in a grotesque grin. A man in an orange vest led me inside. You're the owner? He asked. I nodded. He whistled low. Drunk driver, huh? Something like that, I said. He shrugged. Damn shame. This one looked new. It was. I'd bought it brand new with money that smelled like sweat and pennies, money scraped together shift by shift, dollar by dollar. 3 years of my life compressed into metal and glass. I traced my hand along the crumpled hood, the metal cold under my fingertips. It should have hurt to see it, but instead, I smiled, because that car wasn't the dream anymore. The dream was freedom, and I had it, but freedom has a cost, and my mother was about to make me pay it. The letters didn't stop. If anything, they grew more desperate. Point 1 began with, Rachel, don't let bitterness poison your soul. Another, if you love me, you'll help him. And the last one, before I stopped touching them entirely, you'll regret this when you're alone, when you have no one left. Her words weren't just pleas. They were curses. Each time I came home, I found her hunched at the kitchen table, writing more, her pen stabbing the paper like she wanted to cut me with every sentence. She cooked only for herself now. She left dishes piled in the sink. She ignored me when I came through the door, unless it was to whisper Jacob's name like a prayer. The house had become a shrine to his absence, and I had become a ghost inside it. Point 1 night, I caught her outside in the driveway, clutching the mailbox like it was an altar. The streetlight cast her in a harsh glow, highlighting the lines carved deep into her face. She turned when she saw me, startled, guilty. Another letter? I asked, her jaw tightened. You wouldn't understand. I tilted my head. No. I think I understand perfectly. You're feeding the wolf that's eating us alive. Her eyes flashed. Better a wolf than a coward. The word stung, but I didn't flinch, because by then, I understood something she never would. Survival isn't cowardice. It's war, and I was winning. When I went back to my room that night, I locked the door. Not because I feared her, because I feared what I'd say if I stayed in her orbit too long. The letters stayed piled on my nightstand, gathering dust. The voicemail stayed saved on my phone, his voice lingering like smoke in a closed room, and my mother stayed chained to her devotion. Writing until her hand cramped, praying until her voice went hoarse. Lying until even she must have known the words were hollow, but she wouldn't stop, not until she burned herself down to ash. And that was when I realized something that hollowed me out and filled me at the same time. Jacob wasn't the only one on trial. So was she, because a lie isn't just spoken once. It's lived. It's repeated. It's worshipped, and soon enough, she would choose her final lie, the one that would cost her everything. It was a Sunday when my mother betrayed me. The house was quiet when I pushed open the door, my shift badge still clipped to my uniform, my sneakers soaked from the morning rain. I smelled something faint, like burnt coffee. The kitchen light was on. She was waiting for me at the table. An envelope lay in front of her, sealed, heavy. Her fingers rested on it like a priest guarding scripture. Her eyes found mine, red-rimmed, raw. I did what I had to, she said. I froze. The hair on my arms lifted. What is that? Her lips pressed tight, then lifted, chin high. A statement. I sent it to Jacob's lawyer. I told them the footage wasn't what it looked like. That you exaggerated. That you've hated him for years, that you pressured him, set him up. The room tilted. I gripped the doorway. You lied. Her hand trembled, but her voice came out fierce, jagged. I protected my son. The courts believe mothers. Blood speaks louder than bitterness. Louder than whatever grudge you're carrying. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The air felt thick, unbreathable. I stared at her, searching for even a flicker of remorse. Instead, I saw conviction, hard and unshakable. You'd perjure yourself for him? My voice broke against the silence. Her nostrils flared. I'd do anything for him. He's my boy. You've always been different. Cold. Distant. Jealous. That word sliced me open. Jealous. As if 3 years of broken shifts and raw hands were envy, not sacrificed. I stepped closer. My voice dropped to a whisper, sharp as broken glass. You raised a thief and called it love. You raised a liar and called it charm. You raised a drunk and called it stress. And now you want to raise me into a liar too. Her eyes widened, like she'd never seen me before. Maybe she hadn't. I turned away, heart pounding. In my room, I locked the door, my body shaking. Not from fear. From clarity. If she wanted war, then war is what she'd get. I opened my laptop and began. Every piece of evidence, every ugly truth I had archived over the years, I pulled it out of shadows. Photos of Jacob stumbling drunk, fists raised. Screenshots of texts where he bragged about scams, fights, hustles. Voicemails where he threatened me for money, his voice dripping with venom. Piece by piece, I stitched the fabric of his truth. A tapestry of failure and cruelty she had spent years trying to burn. When it was done, I sat back, chest heaving. The folder on my screen wasn't just evidence. It was freedom, and then I went further. I called Officer Daniels. My mother submitted a false statement, I said, steady, though my pulse raced. She's trying to tamper with the case. I have proof. Silence hummed on the line, heavy. Then his voice, Miss Miller, if that's true, she could face charges herself. I closed my eyes. I know. Because here's the thing, my mother thought her loyalty was a shield. But really, it was gasoline. And she had just lit the match herself. The next day, investigators knocked at our door. I stood in the hallway, listening. Her voice pitched high. Desperate, stammering. Excuses tangled into sobs. But the words were useless now. She had crossed a line the law doesn't forgive, and for the first time in my life, I didn't rush in to rescue her. I let her drown in the ocean she had chosen. That night, she sat in the living room, motionless, the glow of the TV flickering across her hollow face. I passed her quietly, the weight of her hatred pressing against me like heat. She had chosen her side, and I had chosen mine. The final storm was coming, and I wasn't afraid of thunder anymore. The trial was supposed to be simple. My brother had already been sentenced. 18 months. Restitution. Probation to follow. But when my mother submitted her false statement, when she decided to turn me into the villain of her story, the storm shifted. The DA called me in. The investigator replayed her words, the ones she had signed in black ink. She says you manipulated the footage. That you tampered with evidence. That you've held a grudge against your brother for years. I sat across the polished wooden table, hands steady on my lap. Yes, I said. I have held a grudge. A grudge against being treated like furniture in my own house. Against watching my life's work destroyed in a single night while everyone told me to smile through it. Against being told that my pain is smaller than his comfort. If that makes me guilty, fine. But the footage doesn't lie. And neither do I. The investigator's pen scratched across the paper. No hesitation in his eyes. He had already seen the voicemails, the texts, the photos. The pieces I had given them. My mother's lies unraveled like thread pulled from a weak seam. By the time they called her in, her story cracked apart. She wept. She begged. She clutched her chest like truth itself was poison. But the law has no patience for weeping. They charged her with obstruction, perjury, and when she walked out of that courthouse, pale and shaking, she didn't look at me. Not once. Weeks bled into months. Jacob wrote more letters, not to me but to her. Promises that he'd change. Pleas that she keep fighting. I didn't answer. I didn't intercept. I let her read every line, because sometimes punishment isn't fire and brimstone, sometimes punishment is silence, and in that silence, the house became a mausoleum. She cooked alone, ate alone, sat in front of the television with the volume low, staring at the news but never watching. She had gambled everything on him, and lost. The day my car insurance paid out, I stood in the dealership under the harsh white lights, breathing in the scent of leather and new beginnings. The salesman handed me the keys. A fresh start. Midnight black this time, sleeker, stronger. When I slid into the driver's seat, I didn't think about Jacob. I didn't think about my mother. I thought about the nights I spent wiping down tables at the diner, pockets heavy with crumpled bills. About the mornings my hands shook from exhaustion but I kept driving anyway. About the weight of sacrifice, and how light it feels when you finally realize it carried you somewhere worth being. I pulled out of the lot, the engine purring like a secret only I knew. Freedom doesn't roar. It hums, but poetic justice doesn't end with silence. It waits. 6 months later, Jacob got out early on good behavior. My mother was there, waiting at the gates, arms wide, tears streaming. He hugged her, kissed her forehead, whispered promises of redemption, but when his eyes met mine across the parking lot, there was nothing soft in them. Just a glint of hatred. Sharp as glass. Rachel, he said. You ruined my life. I smiled. Calm. Almost gentle. No, Jacob. You ruined mine. I just returned the favor. He laughed once, hollow, shaking his head. You'll regret this. I stepped closer, close enough that he could see his reflection in my eyes. I already did, I whispered. For years. But not anymore. Then I turned, slid into my car, and drove away. The rearview mirror caught their figures, mother and son, clutching each other like wreckage floating on an endless sea, but I wasn't their wreckage anymore. I was the storm that left them stranded. Months later, I got the call. Jacob had been pulled over again. DUI. This time, no one covered for him. No one tampered with footage. No one whispered accidents happen, because no one had the strength. Or the will, and when they asked if I'd testify again, I didn't hesitate. I told the truth. Plain. Simple. Unapologetic, and it struck me, sitting in that courtroom one final time, justice isn't always grand. It doesn't come with fireworks or applause. Sometimes it's as quiet as a judge's pen scratching across paper, sometimes it's just watching the chains go back on. Afterward, I drove home under a pale moon. The highway stretched before me, endless, clean, mined out. I rolled down the window, let the cool air wash over me, and whispered into the night, this is what survival looks like. And for the first time, it didn't feel like revenge anymore. It felt like peace.